Good evening, guys. Today we're gonna start with chapter 6, under title You Attitude. Okay, we're gonna start with the learning objectives. Okay, first, chapter 6 focuses on the importance of your attitude in business communication. After completing the chapter, you should be able to apply strategies for your attitude use, compare and contrast situation for you use, apply strategies for goodwill creation with your attitude, apply strategies for point of view adaptation. Okay, let's get started with slide number 1. Your attitude. Okay, your attitude is a style of writing that focusing on looks at things from the reader point of view, respect the reader's intelligence, protect the reader's ego, emphasize what the reader wants to know. Okay, let's say that your attitude is a concrete way to show empathy and the foundation of persuasion. Your attitude is a matter of style. That's revision for your attitude. Don't change the basic meaning of the sentence. However, revising for attitude often makes sentence longer since sentence become more specific. Also, when we create your attitude by changing words, sometimes or however it's necessary to revise organization and content as well as style to create the best document. Okay. So now we have this title. Please focus with me. The subject is very important and I need to focus with me. How do I create your attitude in my sentences? Okay. Talk about the reader except in negative situation. This is the most important sentence. Again, talk about the reader except in negative situation. So to create your attitude, you have to focus on your reader, the most important person in this communication. So talk about the reader, not about yourself, okay? You have to talk about the reader, not about yourself. Refer to the reader's request or order specifically. Don't talk about your feeling except to congratulate or offer sympathy. This is also the third point is very important. Your reader, they don't, or the readers, they don't care about your feelings, okay, except in certain situations, such as congratulation, for example, or offer any sympathy. Okay. So don't discuss your feelings with readers. In positive situation, use you more than I. And later on, I'm gonna give some examples about it, okay? So use we when it includes the reader. Avoid you in negative situation. Okay, so we have now 5 points and we're gonna start with each point in more details. Okay, now let's start with the first point, which is talk about the reader, not about yourself. Okay. Okay. So readers want to know how they benefit or affected or are affected. So when you provide this information, you make your message more complete and more interesting. Again, your readers, please focus with me, want to know how they benefit. They are expecting the benefit, okay? And also when you provide information, make your message complete, give full information, and which is the information is more interesting for readers, okay? So Now, with these examples, the picture of this will be more clear. Okay. Now, for example, okay, we have two cases, or let's say we have two sentences. Lacks you attitude, you attitude. Okay. So lacks you attitude, it's a negative point of you. Okay, let's get started. I have negotiated an agreement with Apex to rent a car that gives you a discount on rental cars. I have. Do you see that, guys? I have negotiated an agreement with Apex Rent a Car that gives you a discount on rental cars. Okay, but let's say the next case or the next sentence is started with, as a Sunstrand employee, you can now get a 20% discount when you rent a car from Ampex. So we can see the differences between these two sentences. Again, I have negotiated an agreement with Ampex Rent a Car that gives you a discount. So avoid using I, as we said before. Focus on what you can give to your reader. Okay. Also, any sentences that focusing on the writer's work, okay, lacks you attitude, even if the sentence contain the words you. Instead of focusing on what we are giving the reader, this is the most important, please focus with me. Instead of focusing on what we are giving the reader, focus on what the reader can now do. So because the reader is looking for the benefit, okay, he's expecting the benefit from you. So to do that, you may need to change the grammatically subject. Okay, so the first case, or from the two situations, we can see which one is correct. Of course, the second sentence, which is this one. Okay, usually the reader focusing on what we can do with the sentence. Okay, so that's why we have to give another example to make the picture more clear for all students. Okay, lacks you attitude. Okay, this is, let's say, example number 2. We are shipping your order of September 21 this afternoon. We are, you see, we are shipping, such as we are. Okay, shipping your order for September 21st this afternoon. Your attitude should be, the 2 dozen Corningware starter situ order will be shipped this afternoon and should reach you by September 28th. So from these sentences also we can see the difference, which one is more correct. So emphasize what the readers want to know. Okay, the reader, please focus on this sentence. The reader is less interested in when we ship the order. For example, if I'm a reader and I'm talking with a person who's working in the company and he told me that the shipment, okay, or your order, for example, will be shipped at certain date, maybe I don't have much care about it, or I'm not interested at all. So what I'm interested is, when will it arrive, this shipment, okay? So the reader usually is less interested in when we ship the order. I don't care when we ship the order. I only care when it will arrive. So note that the phrase should reach you by leaves room for variation in delivery schedule. If you cannot be exact, give your reader the information you do have. For example, you can say, like, your shipment from California to Texas normally takes 3 days. If I have this accurate information, I'm gonna give it to the reader. But if I don't have any idea, so I need to give the reader a name of carrier, so the readers know whom to contact if the order doesn't arrive promptly. So This is by logic. For example, if I'm asking a person about my shipment, okay, maybe he can tell me that usually this shipment from one city to another takes 3, 4, 5 days, and he needs to give me an accurate information. But if the person, for example, doesn't have any idea about when will it arrive, so the only option for him is give the reader the name of carrier. So if I am a reader, contact I'm gonna contact the carrier and ask him, for example, when will it arrive? Okay, so this is what we are talking about, the differences between sentences and which one is correct. Okay, so now let's move to the next slide, which is talking about refer to the reader request or order specifically. Okay, let's say refer to the reader's request, order, or policy specifically, not as a generic your order or your policy. Okay. So if your reader, we have now, this is the most important example. Okay. Please also focus with me. So now we have three cases. Okay. Lacks you attitude, your order, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You attitude, for individual, what we have to say, and if you are talking for a big company, what you have to say. Okay, so let's say we have three types of readers. Okay, so if your reader is an individual or small business, it's friendly to specify the content of the reader. If your reader, again, is an individual, okay, or a small business or a small company, it's friendly to specify the content of the order. So I'm gonna say, such as the desk chair you order. Okay, but if you are writing to a big company with which you have a great deal with it, okay, so give the invoices or purchase order number. So I'm gonna say your invoice 783329, for example. So from these three cases, we can recognize if your reader is individual, okay, what you have to say. If your reader is a large store, what you have to say, and what makes you in a negative way when you say your order, blah, blah, blah. So you have to focus in which word you have to use when you are talking with your readers. Okay. Now we have this slide. Start with these words. Don't talk about feelings except to congratulate or offer a sympathy. Okay. Let's say it's appropriate to talk about your own emotions in a message of congratulation or condolences. Okay. For example, here you can express your feelings because you are using the emotions, okay, with certain situation. Okay. So congratulations on your promotion to district manager. I was really pleased to read about it. Or for example, when we are talking about condolence situation, I was sorry to hear that your father died. Okay, so at this point, you can use the word I, not you. Okay, because here you can express your emotions, okay, for example, to your readers. Because here in these situations, okay, you are not talking about your feeling. Here you express your emotion or depends on reader situation. Depends on reader situation. Okay. Also, we have another, yeah. Here also we have another example. For example, in most business situation, your feelings are irrelevant and should be omitted, okay? So all the readers care about it is the situation from his or her point of view. Okay, let's say that lacks you attitude. We are happy to extend you a credit line of $5,000, okay, of $5,000. Okay, and you can say here, you can now charge up to 5,000 in your American Express card. Okay, so if we need to focus in these two examples here, okay, you can see that your emotions that you are happy, it's irrelevant and should be omitted. Your reader doesn't care if you are happy or not, okay? Only he cares about the situation. For example, the charge up to 5,000 in your American Express card, which is the most important thing, or which is the most interested for the readers. Okay. We have here also the other example as we said it. Okay, now we need to move to another title or point number 4, which is talking about positive situation. Use you more often than I. Use you, okay? Use the word you more often than I, okay? Use we when it includes the reader. So when I need to use we, okay, particularly when it includes the reader. Okay. Okay, talk about the reader, not you or your company. So the reader is the most important thing in this big circle. Okay. So also we have an example here to recognize or to understand better. Okay. Let's say, lacks you attitude, we provide health insurance to all employees. You attitude, you receive health insurance, okay, as a full-time Procter and Gamble employee. So most reader, let's say that most reader are tolerant of the word I in email message, for example, which seems like conversation. But in edit paper document, to use I rarely, if at all. I suggest that you are concerned about personal issues, not about the organization problems, needs, and opportunities. I don't care about organization. I don't care about you. Okay, so we works well when it includes the reader. So you have always includes the reader. Okay, when you are using we. So here, this example again, we provide health insurance to all employees. This is mean lacks you attitude. But when you say, or when you said, you receive health insurance as a full-time Procter and Gamble employee, this is what you have to say for your reader. Okay. Now we're gonna move to point number 5. As you remember, guys, avoid you in negative situation. Here we say, to avoid blaming the reader, use an impersonal expression or a passive verb. Okay, so to avoid blaming the reader, use an impersonal expression or a passive verb. Talk about the group to which the reader belongs, so the readers don't feel they are singled out for bad news. This is also, you have to be aware about this point. Like talk about a group in general, okay, but this group is related to your certain reader, so the reader here will not feel that he is singled out for bad news. Okay, we're gonna give an example here to make, as I said, the picture more clearly. Here we are focusing at some examples to make the points more clear and to be more understand in easy way. Okay, focus with me. Lacks you attitude here. Okay, you failed to sign your check. Okay, but we have two cases here. If you remember, guys, when we talk about impersonal, right? Impersonal construction, or when we use passive verbs. So you can say here, okay, your check arrived without a signature. Your check arrived without a signature. Okay, if I use a passive verb, I can say here, your check was not signed. Was not signed. Okay, so here I'm not gonna blame the reader. Also, I will talk about a group, for example, in general, to which the reader belongs to. So when the reader reads this message, they will not feel that he is singled out for a bad news. Okay? So here, okay, so here at this situation, to avoid you in negative situation, when you are using impersonal construction, you omit people and talk only about things from this example. So here, for example, you said your check arrived without a signature. So here you didn't mention any person or any people. So you omit people from the whole conversation or from the whole sentence. You are only talking about subjects or things, which is my example here, the check, okay, arrived without a signature. I haven't say a name for anybody. I didn't mention mention anybody here in this sentence. But when I'm using a passive verbs, okay, describe the action performed, okay, what we say here is describe the action performed on something without necessarily saying who did it. For example, here, I said, your check was not signed. Your check was not signed, okay? But in most cases, active verbs are better. But when your reader is at fault situation, you didn't use active verbs, so you have to use passive verbs. Maybe more useful to avoid assigning blame, because the main point in this sentence, okay, I need to avoid blaming the reader. I don't need to mention names. I don't need to mention anybody in this situation. So I have two options here. I might use an impersonal construction to omit people at all and talk only about subjects or things. The second option is using passive verbs. So I need to describe the action performed on something without necessarily saying who did it. I'm not going to mention also any names here. So that's why I'm using a passive verbs. Okay. So let's move to the next slide, which is talking about, does you attitude basically mean using the word you? Okay. I think the answer is no for this questions. Okay, let's say that all messages should use you attitude, but the words to achieve it will change depending on the situation. Again, all messages should use you attitude, but the words to achieve it will change depending on the situation. Okay, so here in a positive message, focus on what the reader can do. What the reader can do in a positive message. So we give you, for example, this sentence lacks you attitude because this sentence focus on what we are doing. Avoid using you when it criticizes the reader or limit the reader freedom. Okay. Also, we are continue in this point in a job application letter. Okay. Show how you can help meet the reader's need, but remember to keep the word you in a minimum level. So at this point, does your attitude basically meaning using the word you in a positive message, focus on what the reader can do. So don't use we give you because it means lacks you attitude. So this sentence focus on what we are doing. So you have to avoid it. Also, you have to avoid you when it criticizes the reader or limit the reader's freedom. Also, when we are in the job application letter, create your attitude also, but showing how you can help meet the reader's needs, but use the word you in a minimum level. Okay. So now let's move to this slide. I have revised my sentences. Do I need to do anything else? What do you think, guys, about this sentence? Okay. First, you have to check your content and organization as well. Also, you need to emphasize what the reader wants to know. So, let's say to create a goodwill with a content, you need to make your message good and apply your attitude beyond the sentence level by using content and organization as well as a style to build a goodwill. So I have a target like I need to build a goodwill. So to create it with my content, I need to be complete. So what does it mean to be complete? When you have a lot of information to give, consider putting some details in appendix. So you have to use appendix, okay? So that's why the reader can read it later on. Okay. Anticipate and answer questions the reader is likely to have. When you include information the reader didn't ask for it, show why it's important. So you have to give your evidence why you are give this information to the reader. So you need to focus or you need to show why this information is important to the reader. So let's say this is why I put it in my document, or that's why I put it in my report, for example. Okay, so show readers how the subject of your message affects them. Also, we continue with these and at this point, okay, put information readers are most interested in first. So when you have information, okay, when you categorize your information, you start from the most important information, put it at the beginning, so the readers can understand why you send, for example, why you send this letter for him. Okay, arrange information to meet your reader's need, not yours. Arrange information to meet your reader's need, not yours. And also use headings and lists so that reader can find key points quickly. So these 6 points can create a goodwill with content. Be complete, give a complete information. And also when you have a lot of information, use an appendix. Anticipate and answer questions readers are likely to have. For information the reader didn't ask, show why it's important. Show readers how the message subject affect them. Put information reads are most interested in first. Okay. Arrange information to meet your reader's need, not yours. Okay. And use headings, of course, use headings and lists so that reader can find key points quickly. Okay. Here I have revised my sentence. So, do I need to do anything else? Okay, let's say I need to, okay. Focus with me, please. Consider the letter in figure 6.1 at this point. Okay, I'm gonna use the marker here to explain it in easy way. Okay, this is figure 6.1. We have a letter. This is such as an example. Here, consider the letter in figure 6.1 as a red marginal notes indicate many individual sentence in this letter lack your attitude. For example, The last sentence in paragraph 1 sound both harsh and defensive. The clause is selfish. So you have to revise it really, and you have to rewrite it again. So here also the language is stiff and filled with outdated jargon. Perhaps the most serious problem is that the fact most interested to the reader is buried in the middle of the first paragraph. Since we have a good news for the reader, okay, so we should put the information first. Okay. So as we said the 6 points before, here it's like an example how to build a goodwill. So this example at figure 6.1, you need to discover the mistakes which makes you lax at your attitude. Okay, so you have to focus, for example, for your paragraph or your sentences, for example, it shouldn't be harsh and defensive. It shouldn't be selfish. Okay, the language you are, for example, the language that you are using, it shouldn't be outdated jargon. Okay, perhaps the most serious problem is that the fact, for example, most interesting to the reader is buried in the middle of the first paragraph. So the reader will not find it easily. Okay. Okay. So when we move to the figure 6.2 here, we can see that this figure show a possible revision after I discover the mistakes here. The revision is more clear, easy to read, and more friendly for the readers. Okay. So here we can compare when I need to revise my sentences. When I find, for example, like I'm using, let's say, defensive language, or I'm using harsh language, or I'm using a selfish language. Of course, here I need to do some revise for my sentences. Maybe I need to remove it all. I need to reorganize it to make the information easy to find, to make the information more interesting for the reader. Also, I need to avoid the outdated jargon, for example. This is also very important. Okay. Finally, here we need to talk about seeing another point of view. Okay. It's more than observing and sympathizing. Starting with shared experience, resolving conflicts often requires empathy. Resist the temptation to put your needs ahead of others. And the last sentence is also very important. Many companies want employees who can empathize. Okay, so here, the companies focusing on empathize because they need more emotion employees. Okay, so we reach to the final point here in this chapter, but let's now make a quick revision of what we talked here. Okay, we talked here about apply strategies for your attitude use, to compare a situation for you use. Okay, how to create a good will to your readers, apply strategies for point of view. Okay, so here at the first slide we talked about respect the reader intelligence, protects the reader's ego, emphasize what the reader wants to know. Then we move to the next slide. How do I create you attitude my sentence? For example, use you more than I. Okay, for the whole text, for example. Okay, so talk about the reader, not about yourself. Also, it's very important here because readers want to know how they benefit. They, as I said, they don't care about your emotions or your feelings. Okay, So when you provide the information, make your message complete and interesting for the readers. Here we give more examples about when I talk to the reader, for example, not about me. We give an example how it looks like lacks you attitude, and the next or the other example focusing on your attitude as it should be. Okay, here also when lacks your attitude, or let's say false sentence and correct sentence. Okay, keep going on the same context here. Don't talk, sorry, about feeling except to congratulate or offer sympathy. Okay, here there is an example about it, as we said before. Avoid you in negative situation. Okay, does you attitude basically meaning use the word you in a positive message, as we said. Avoid criticize the reader or limit the reader freedom in a job application letter situation. Keep award you in a minimum level. Here I have revised, sorry, my sentence. Do I need to do anything else? How to create goodwill with content. We have 6 points. Explain it as we explained. Okay, here we have a comparison between two document, or let's say before and after, when we found some mistakes, okay, as we said, and how we need to correct these mistakes so we make a revised for mistakes sentences. And finally, we reach our finally, sorry, we talked about another point of a view. Okay, so so finally, I hope that the lecture is clear for all of you and the explanation as well. Good luck.